deliverables. So it's a definition of the end result or mission of the project, or a product or a service for the client and for the customer. So it is, because you're going to qualify it in specific, tangible, and then in a measurable terms. Remember, if you don't measure it, then you're not managing it, because there is always a parameter to measure. And to measure it, then you need to know exactly what you're going to deliver. And to know exactly what you're going to deliver, you have to break it down. Okay? So it's a statement. Technically, a scope in a statement means that I want to develop a 10-story apartment in Bethesda. Okay? That's a scope statement. Then we're going to go back and then break it down. So the purpose of the scope statement is to clearly define the deliverables for the end users, to focus the project on a successful completion of its goals. And then also, you remember what we discussed earlier, it allows project managers and supervisors to allocate just the right amount of work. Because at the end of the day, if you are a consultant, if you manage your own project, you're always concerned about what? About your cost. Okay? And then that cost has an implication on the type of project you deliver. So that cost is basically, we call it a resource. Okay? So it's allocated, integrated with the right amount of work. And also, you will gonna integrate with other knowledge area. Remember, we discussed about have integration and then scope, time, and with all of these technical parts. Okay, and it's also scope involves getting information required to start the project, and the features that project will deliver for your end users. Okay, so this is another flavor of doing a scope planning and scope definition. You create the work breakdown structure. You create the once you get that, then you monitor and control, and then it goes there. So I'm going to break down into each one of them one by one, so that you'll understand how the whole process works. So this is what PMI defines in their PMBOK. That you need to know that you plan your scope management, you collect your requirements, you define your scope, you create the WBL, you validate, and then you control. When you reach to 5-6, pretty much you have defined your scope. And I'm going to give you a couple examples for that, so that you will understand how the process works. Okay, remember, part of the PMP, the project management plan. Okay, we have a PMP. The project management plan is an overall plan that helps project managers to accomplish their job, and there are over 8 subsidiary plans under it, and one of them is the scope management plan. Okay, so project scope management plan is the process of creating a scope management plan that documents how the project scope will be defined, validated, and controlled. It also provides a guidance and direction on how scope will be managed throughout the process, and the process of determining and documenting all the stakeholders. So now imagine we're going to stay with the Daniel example. We are building a 6-story apartment. That's a general scope. Okay? Now, when I become a project manager, the first things I do is I'm going to schedule a requirement gathering session with Daniel's team. So what do you understand by requirement gathering means?
You need to figure out cost.
You need to figure out cost.
How much time it's gonna take to build.
Okay.
In short, the resources you're going to need to accomplish the goal.
Resource requirement.
So requirements. So now, in the requirement session, you're gonna have, if it's a software, sometimes we call it a JAD session. You're gonna, in my project team, I have an expert. It's called business analyst. Okay, I hire an expert in my team, the business analyst. That business analyst does nothing but work with the client to capture the requirements. Okay, so now when I ask Daniel's team, say, can you give me your point of contact so that I can work with this? So I will work to my systems analyst. I say, hey, John, I want you to set up a meeting. Okay, now that systems analyst is going to organize a meeting with Daniel's team. Maybe Daniel has architect, he has a business person. So we're going to have that meetings and then start gathering requirements. So when you gather requirements, you may probably get a high level requirement for each one of them. Okay, so your building has a basement. Do you need a basement? Yes. Okay, what type of, how is that 2-story or 3-story of your basement? And do you also need access for additional, loading and unloading? What do you want to have on ground floor? Okay, and he's going to say that I want to have shops, and I want to have a little bit of bank or shopping area. And how big do you want to have your project? And then they're going to say this and this and this. Then you come to the second floor and say, okay, what do you want on the second floor? Okay, we want to have about 25 units of apartments. And then the question is, okay, do you need a variety? Do you need a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, studio, or everything? Then he tells me every single activities, how is going to be your room size would be, and what is on the 3rd floor, what's on the 4th floor, what's on the 5th floor. So I gathered all of that information through my business analyst. That business analyst usually become a moderator. So he moderates between the clients and then the project team, and then they capture. And there are a number of softwares available working for that, and one of them is called business modeling software, BML, that will capture all the requirements and then put in a manageable chunk. So that's the first stage. Okay, you may have a lot of back and forth meetings between the clients and the project team. Why? Because you don't want to miss anything. So once all those requirements are in, okay, then the business, the BA, the business analyst, go back to his office and break this one into, let's say, 240 requirements, 240 pieces. So I break down to 240 requirement that you wanted to build. Then we will follow up in another meeting, and the business analyst and the project manager, they will go back and say, okay, we have all of this. And sometimes the client, especially in the software world, okay, in construction world, there is already a predefined activities. But imagine, because Daniel is the owner, okay, but if I change that and then say Brahanu is an IT specialist, and customer wanted to upgrade a system, okay, now the owner is the customer, and the CIO say that I wanted to upgrade a document management software. So in that case, the project manager, get that business analyst and then start asking who are the end users for this system. You remember stakeholders analysis we discussed, which we're going to discuss later on? Then imagine, you may probably identify 20 stakeholders from the organization, and then you organize a session, and sometimes we call it JAD session. JAD session means the Joint Application Development Session. And JAD session has been moderated and facilitated by a business analyst. Then I said, okay, the CIO wanted the document management system to be upgraded. Now you are the end users. We want you to tell us what you wanted to do. Everybody in the room say, I want to have this, I want to have that, I want to have this. So you capture 240 requirements. Okay? Now, would that be feasible to build all of 240 requirements in the first round of your system? Exactly. Now you have 240 requirements. Some of them are, high priority. Some of them are low priority. So you take these requirements and then you break them down into must-have, okay, good to have, and the wish lists, or probably sometimes to me that something that is not burning. So now the BA is going to go and then check all those 240 requirements, and then they put that, okay, I have 100 must-have requirements, and then I have about 100 good to have, and then 40 is something, it's kind